Good evening. Welcome to the Salem Area Mass Transit District's board meeting for December. We are attending partially virtually, and Ms. Galeazzi has noted the attendance. We have a full quorum present, so we will go ahead and proceed with our meeting. The first item is the Pledge of Allegiance, which I will lead us in. Pledge of Allegiance. United States of the Republic. Next, we'll go ahead and proceed to our safety moment. General Manager.
Thank you. So, the advent of ice conditions the other day, I thought I would focus. Yes, thank you. With the advent of icy conditions the other day, I thought I would focus our safety message tonight on safety tips on snow or ice. When it is snowy or icy out there, please take short steps or shuffle for stability. Bend slightly forward and walk flat-footed with your center of gravity directly over your feet as much as possible. Keep your hands out of your pockets and be prepared to fall. Also, the 4 key elements for safe winter driving: reduce your speed and slow down, stay alert, watch your surroundings, maintain control and don't panic, or better yet, ride the bus and leave the driving to us. We have trained professionals. That concludes my safety message.
Thank you, General Manager. Next, we'll go ahead and proceed to the announcements and changes to the agenda. I'd like to note here that agenda item C, the presentation of an award, we're going to be pulling that from this month's agenda, and it will we will have it on a future agenda, though. And then next on our agenda is public comment. So, Ms. Galeazzi, have we received any written comment?
We received one comment that has gone, is being investigated.
Okay.
Director Nguyen sent it.
Oh, yes, yeah, RAB 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
That wasn't, sorry, it was just a normal inquiry. It wasn't public comment for the board meeting. It was a routine
Sure.
request, and we've already responded in answer to that.
Okay, great. Any members of the public? Ben just messaged. Ross, could you?
He's not hearing all audio. I don't think Linda's mic was on at the time.
Okay.
It is now.
Linda turned on her mic now, so if she, yeah. Any members of the public that perhaps are on the line that might be willing or interested in providing public comment? Okay, seeing no members of the public online, and I'll go ahead and note that there's no members of the public present this evening. So we will go ahead and proceed to the consent calendar. So if there are no issues with the items on the consent calendar, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Okay, we have a motion to approve
I'll second.
and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion. Oh,
I have one quick question, President Davidson, and that is, can somebody explain to me, and maybe there is not an easy way because there isn't always an easy way to describe the legislative motivation for something, but the combination of the STIF and the STIFAC, or what are the acronyms?
Sure. So the STIFAC is the Statewide Transportation Improvement Fund Advisory Committee. That is the committee that was established with House Bill 2017 and the Transportation Bill when the payroll tax was established. And so that committee, the responsibility is to provide recommendations to the board on enhancements to service. The STF, the Special Transportation Fund Advisory Committee, is an advisory committee that's designed to provide recommendations to the board on elderly and disabled transportation services that are funded through the STF fund, which is the cigarette tax, the non-roadway gas tax, and the DMV identification card fees.
Thank you. And then it says in the staff report associated with that item that a new advisory committee will be appointed. Is it the same method of appointment? And do we imagine that many people will transition to the new advisory committee, or are we looking at a whole new paradigm?
So in this coming calendar year, we will dissolve both the STIF Advisory Committee and the STF Advisory Committee. If you recall, I've been serving on a Rules Advisory Committee to kind of re-look at that. The OTC will take action at their January board meeting and make the rules official. And at that time, then we'll take action to dissolve both of those committees and reconstitute a new committee that combines the intent of both committees. Some members will transition into the new committee, some may not. But staff will then create new bylaws for the new committee that it's basically moving the STF elements into the STIF program instead of having two programs. And that was legislatively directed, so there would be one transportation revenue fund from the state instead of two. So,
Thanks so much. I appreciate that. It's kind of a nerdy question. So.
and that's why you saw all the recommendations only for 1 year, just to allow the committees to stay active until the reconstitution.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Director Carney. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll go ahead and proceed to the action items for the agenda, the first being dealing with air purifiers.
Thank you. I'll ask Greg Thompson, our maintenance manager, to please come on screen. There he is.
Good evening, President Davidson, members of the board. Tonight, I'm asking the board to authorize the general manager to execute a contract with United Safety and Survivability Corporation, also known as USSC, for the purchase of active air purifiers for the Chariot's local and ADA fleets for an amount not to exceed $242,255. As you're aware, COVID-19 has drastically affected and altered the way Chariots conducts business and has affected all employees, riders, and customers. The district has taken numerous measures to keep all employees and customers as safe as possible. And one of those steps is the regular sanitizing of all revenue vehicles. Currently, buses are sanitized at the end of the evening when they're done being fueled, and then at a regular interval, not to surpass 4 hours, so 4 hours or less while the buses are in service all throughout the day. District staff have continued to look for ways to improve the overall sanitizing of buses while not overburdening existing workforce. Additional considerations would be the reduction of spraying chemicals that leave a sticky buildup. And during the investigatory process, the use of active air purifier that not only sanitizes the air, but also all of the surfaces that air touches was found to be the technology of choice. So active air purifiers provide a dynamic antimicrobial environment within the bus by producing continuous low doses of hydrogen peroxide generated via a catalytic converter, catalytic advanced oxidation technology, different thing. And unlike passive technologies that look for the air to circulate and get captured into a filter, this one is actively purifying all of the air that's inside of the buses. The 99% kill rate on known viral pathogens, such as the SARS-CoV-2, which causes COVID-19, H1N1, avian flu, molds, fungus, and odors. Essentially, this technology will protect passengers and operators from airborne threats immediately. Staffs conducted a thorough request for proposal solicitation. Requirements for the vendors included published third-party laboratory tests, verifying the deactivation of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, as well as other pathogens, and the safe operation of proposed units in occupied spaces. 7 bids were received, and USSC was the lowest cost, meeting all of the required specifications. The funding for this proposed contract is included in the capital project budgets of SAMTD's adopted fiscal year 21-22 budget. And the station costs are listed in table 1 below. So for the local fleet, fixed route buses, those are a little bit different style. Those will actually go into the Thermo King ductwork in the back of the bus. Those have a cost of $2,895, 64, one for each bus, for a total of $185,280. And then the Chariots Lift, the ADA paratransit fleet purifiers. It's a smaller standalone unit. Look, it's a silver box. Looks like a kind of a big shoebox. Those are $1,325 for 43 for one for every bus there. $56,975 for a total of $242,255. The funding for this contract is covered through the FTA's Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act of 2021, known as CRRSA. And the funds for that are 100% from that FTA funding for the entire amount. The staff recommends that the board authorize the general manager to execute a contract with United Safety and Survivability Corporation for the purchase of active air purifiers for the Chariots local and ADA fleets for an amount not to exceed $242,255. And if there's any questions.
Any questions for Manager Thompson? Director Carney.
Thank you, President Davidson. I do try to pause, everyone. I just want to let you know that I don't always want to be the first one to ask questions. So just really know that don't wait on me. I'm waiting on you. Anyway, 2 questions. One is, does this magical air purification device eliminate all of your need for sort of surface sanitation? Does it do all that work for us?
That it does.
That's incredible.
That's one of there's a couple pluses. You know, we did a lot of investigation in trying to find chemicals that worked with what's called the lowest amount of dwell time, which is how long that chemical needs to stay wet on a surface to be able to deactivate the SARS virus and other molds. So with it having to stay on the surfaces is actually having a buildup of materials, because if you wipe it, then that surface is now dry, and it really did not much good at all. So we're cleaning buses more often. Surfaces are kind of sticky and kind of gross. Then we're also having to go in and sanitize and spray the buses all throughout the day on a regular basis. So this will take care of all of that.
Thank you. And then my second question is related to just generally the procurement processes that the district has to, or the sort of regulations that you have to follow. Am I remembering correctly that there is a strong preference for USA made goods, and that when we make a purchase, and I guess I'm asking indirectly if this is one where we are sort of supporting United States businesses in our purchase? And if you could just speak to that sort of generally would be helpful.
Sure, it's actually a great question, because we actually did a procurement before this, and the winning bid could not meet Buy America. So the regulations say that any expenditure over $150,000 needs to 100% meet Made in America, Buy America. So this one, we had to redo it, the solicitation, and this one meets all of the Buy America requirements.
Thank you.
Director Navarro.
Thank you, President Davidson. Mr. Thompson, the question that I had was, I see that we touched on, a couple different flus, a couple different pathogens here. Does this work for the common flu as well?
It virtually kills everything. I listed kind of some of the major ones, but all the viruses and the bacteria, the molds, it either deactivates and makes it to where it's not a pathogen anymore for some of the stronger viruses like the SARS virus, and the other ones it actually kills. So it actually, because it's producing a low amount of hydrogen peroxide, is sanitizing everything.
Awesome, thank you.
I just have one, oh, Director Nguyen, please.
Thank you, President Davidson. My question is, I've heard from constituents where there has been other usage of, and I know this is UV technology and not ozonators, but could there potentially have any triggering effects on folks that are sensitive to scents and or asthmatic folks?
Sure, great question. So this actually does not produce any ozone. Ozone has some regulatory limits on what's allowable for production in occupied spaces. I want to kind of steer clear of that because people are more sensitive to that. And with the hydrogen, it's even at a much lower level. We actually this technology was tested in a bus for about 6 months to kind of get some feedback. We had a concern with early on kind of, hey, what's this machine and what it's doing? I had to dispel a couple rumors about the technology. I took one of the sample units, been in my office to kind of see if it's producing anything that, people can really smell. It's a, offensive smell or might be a trigger there. So this technology we feel much better about in compared to other technologies.
Great, thank you, Manager Thompson. I just have had a constituent reach out a while back because she commutes on our regional line and often has her toddler son. And so both of them have breathing issues. And so I just wanted to get ahead of that. Thank you.
Manager Thompson, for the local fleet air purifiers, you mentioned that it would go right into the Thermo King system. I'm wondering if that requires a change in practice on airflow normally pre-COVID of how things used to operate.
Yeah, it actually will, since it's using the bus's HVA system for the circulation of the production of the hydrogen peroxide. It will need to have, the heater on or a fan on. There's a couple modes for that HVA system on buses. So it'll need to be in an operating mode of cooling or heating or circulating in order to achieve that.
Thank you. I imagine the energy draw, if it's just a fan, isn't too high. Is that a safe assumption?
Actually, the units that are going into the fixed route buses don't have a fan. So the energy usage, is very, very small. It is relying on the actual buses fans that circulate the air to circulate this. It's actually kind of plumbed in and wired into the current HVAC ductwork.
Thank you for that clarification. So if I understood you correctly, though, given that we need this running more frequently, we will be running the fan that's built into the bus more frequently, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking battery electric buses, unsurprisingly, and I'm thinking about energy draw on having to change how we now that we're running a fan more frequently. I am, based on my own experience, I imagine that as long as it's not heat or cool, and if it's just a fan, it'll probably be minimal, but I would be curious if that really degrades our range.
Yeah, it's really, if they're going to, on a battery electric bus, if it's cold out, they're going to run with the heat anyway.
Right.
So the good news, kind of, not to get too on a different path, but we did our assumptions when we were route modeling the electric buses. We did take into consideration, say, well, in worst case scenario, it's cold every day, the heaters are always on, to kind of worst case scenario for our range. So any day that it's not cold out, we can go farther than what we actually planned.
Great, that's fantastic. Any other questions for Manager Thompson? All right, would someone like to make a motion? Director Navarro.
Thank you, President Davidson. I move the board to authorize the general manager to execute a contract with United Safety and Survivability Corporation for the purchase of active air purifiers for the Chariots local and ADA fleets for the amount of not to exceed $255.
Thank you. And
I second.
got it, we got a second. Any discussion on the motion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 I,
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next is to execute a contract for Northside Ford Truck Sales Incorporated.
And Greg Thompson will present this staff report as well.
President Davidson and members of the board, good to see you again. Tonight, I'm asking the board to authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Northside Ford Truck Sales for the purchase of 4 hybrid operator supervisor vehicles, which are 3 replacement and 1 expansion, for an amount not to exceed $161,472. Currently, the district has 3 2011 Ford Escape hybrids for use as supervisory vehicles. These vehicles have far exceeded their useful life with an average age of 10 years and 144,000 miles. As part of the district's overall capital planning efforts, staff is committed to ensuring our vehicles are replaced at a schedule consistent with industry's best practices. Although the vehicles are treated to a superior maintenance program, parts usage, availability, and costs are steadily increasing. These vehicles are used to report to transit centers and any location within our service area that may need assistance. As with most response vehicles, these conditions can be less than ideal, including inclement weather, accident scenes, and assisting with persons in crisis. Staff have investigated several different vehicle manufacturers to better understand what vehicles would best suit the varying daily roles of the operations supervisors. The Ford Police Interceptor hybrid model quickly surfaced because of the additional protections the vehicle offers. The vehicles specified are obviously hybrid. They are all-wheel drive for the inclement weather and have numerous safety features. These include a police perimeter alert, perimeter anti-theft alarm, blind spot monitoring, pre-collision detection, and additionally, the Police Interceptor models offer a much higher collision rating than standard vehicles. The contract price is based on the Oregon State Price Agreement. A request for quote was sent to all Ford dealers on the price agreement, with 2 responses being received. Northside Ford and Truck Sales was the lowest cost, meeting all of our specifications. Once the contract is signed, the vehicles do have an anticipated 30-week lead time. The funding for this proposed contract will be included in the capital projects budget of SAMTD's adopted fiscal year 22-23 budget, and the vehicle costs are below, which they are $40,368 each, for a total of $161,472. The funding for the proposed contract will be covered through an FTA 5307A grant, which is an 80-20% match. The grant amount is $129,178, with the match amount of $32,298, with a total of $161,472. Staff recommends that the board authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Northside Ford Truck Sales for the purchase of 4 hybrid supervisor vehicles for an amount not to exceed $161,472. And I will take any questions.
Are there any questions for Manager Thompson? Director Navarro.
Thank you, President Davidson. So one question I have is, are these vehicles already going to be or do any of our vehicles currently have, are they outfitted with like lighting and things, the emergency type of lighting that comes with these police vehicles? And if so, are these vehicles going to be already outfitted with that, or is that an additional cost?
Great question. That'll actually be an additional cost. Using the price modeling that we have, we can't use the lights that come with it, so we have to. We can't use blues and reds, so we'll outfit those at a different place with ambers, similar to some of the supervisor vehicles that we have now. And we'll look at how many of those need. Some of them when the rear hatch is open, we have lights that are visible because we're pulling out supplies out of the back, and we still want to remain as visible as possible. So there will be some additional upfitting.
Awesome, thank you.
Director Nguyen.
Thank you, President Davidson. I'm curious, Manager Thompson, why we chose to deviate away from the Ford Escapes. My first inclination is I'm feeling a bit disappointed to see that the EPA miles per gallon rates the Interceptors in the mid-20s, whereas if we had gone with the replacement with the Escape hybrids, then we would be sitting in the high 30s.
It's good question. So we were looking at the right fit. We do have 3 Escapes right now that are hybrid, and we struggle to have those accommodate the spacing and the things that we carry on the supervisors. And we went with the next size up, and still in the hybrid model.
Great, thank you for the explanation.
Manager Thompson, could you paint a picture of what kind of things these vehicles are used for day to day?
Sure. I mean, they do ride check, timing checks. They respond to anything, an accident, accident investigations. They will go out if there's. They'll sometimes do a police assist when we're removing people from shelters that shouldn't be there. Mark some of our parking rides. They're really there for kind of chariot support for our operators for when those situations arise that maybe don't raise to the level yet of calling in Salem Police Department or Kaiser Police Department. And they're just kind of multi-purpose.
Thank you.
Yeah. If I could just add a few items, yeah. So our field supervisors who are patrolling, if you will, our service area to be available in the need of an operator that needs assistance. Many times we'll meet buses out on the route to fix fare boxes, so they have equipment there, pull hard drives, they carry spare hard drives for the camera systems. So there's a lot of equipment within there, within the vehicles. So they're the support eyes and ears of the operators when they're out, service is going on.
Shelter notifications if there's detours. I mean, I'm sure if Don Clifford was here, he could opine about all the great things that the operations supervisors do. They deal with a myriad of various situations.
Thank you. Director Carney.
Thank you, President Davidson. First, I want to give a huge shout out to the great work that our operations supervisors do and the assistance they provide in helping keeping the system running overall. I do the thing that I wish out of this is that the car had a different name. The police interceptor kind of rubs me the wrong way. And that may just be a name. But I just am a little sensitive to, a group of people that I see as really providing assistance and helping keeping the system running, being characterized in a way similar to a group of people that are regulating in a different way and that inspire fear in a number of our community members.
Sure, if I could, I think that's I can look to see. I'm not sure if, like most vehicles, if the model is emblazoned on the vehicle that has those connotations with it. They're very similar to what the Salem Police Department uses, and I think there may even be the option. I'll have to look to have badge delete to just make it a SUV. And people may not even know it's a Ford unless there's a blue oval on the front. So that might be an option. I think that's a good observation.
Thank you. I appreciate your attention to that.
Director Hinojosa Pressey.
Yeah, pretty much sort of similar to a comment I wanted to make. I wanted to know what the difference between the Police Interceptor and a Ford Explorer is. Because they look really similar, so I was wondering like why Interceptor instead of the Explorer?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, the biggest thing is this Interceptor model has a crash rating that is substantially higher, safety rating that is substantially higher. It has some of the packages that we would need. You know, we're going to be integrating laptops for our bus communications. It has some of those pre-wire things. Some of the options that we're going to be doing with upfitting and lighting, it's already pre-wired for those radios, pre-wired. It also has, and I had to write it down because it has some other safety features. One of the things I can say is that as our operations supervisors are dealing with the public, things have changed, I guess. Without sounding too negative, but there's been a lot more rise in escalation of people's aggression, I guess, towards when they're, you know, being asked to leave a shelter, being asked to leave a parking ride, being trespassed. And one of the options available on this car that we are optioning it with is called the, I think I spelled it out in the board memo, but it's a perimeter alert system. So that's one of those things that it says it offers a 270-degree area around the vehicle, that if there's nearby movements around that it notifies the person that's in the vehicle. So, you know, nobody's sneaking up on anybody. So it's just, this vehicle offers a much more comprehensive safety package for our operators, both collision prevention detection systems and the crash rating. So that's kind of what drove us to pick that model over other models, plus the larger size and being able to accommodate the tools and equipment and things that they currently carry.
Yeah, I did notice that through like a quick Google that it'll roll up the windows and lock the doors if it detects something. And then I guess just for my own knowledge, this might sound like kind of a naive question. When could we expect maybe moving into also like the like a fully electric vehicle for our supervisors?
That's always on the forefront when we're looking at vehicles, trying to find alternative fuel options, and also still trying to make that balance of right fit for the fleet. That was our first look, was even looking at, Ford's coming out with, we thought, well, maybe an all electric pickup would work. They're not quite out yet. So I think each time that we purchase vehicles, that's one of the things that we're looking at to see what options are available on the alternative fuel front. We didn't even early on know that this model even came in hybrid. So instead of going with just a straight gasoline option, we thought, well, hybrid is at least bridging somewhat of a gap on what's availability to help alleviate our fuel consumption.
Thanks.
Other questions? Okay. Seeing no, Director Carney.
Sorry. Not sure if this is an option, but now I'm looking at pictures of the Police Interceptor Utility Hybrid all-wheel drive. What's the name, Manager Thompson, of the thing that goes on the front that would like push?
Oh, the push bar?
Is that it? That looks pretty aggressive. I don't know that our supervisors need to look that aggressive. I don't know if that is an option that we buy or don't buy, but we might de-escalate the car a little bit by getting the push bar removed, if possible.
And one thing that also helped with the aesthetics of it, it'll be branded with ours. Salem, they've got a all black vehicle, looks a little intimidating. Ours will be white with I think one of our departments is working on a branding that will look similar to our blue buses. So it kind of goes with our style, our brand. And I think not having it black will probably help reduce that aggressive stance a little bit too.
It's an aggressive looking vehicle for sure. Thank you.
Director Dietz, do you have something to add?
Yes, if I may, thank you,
Please.
President Davidson, members of the board. One thing, Director Carney, that led us to keep the push bar on these vehicles is during snow and ice weather, this would allow a road supervisor to give the bus even sometimes just a gentle nudge to get it going so that we wouldn't be blocking an intersection. We did have much discussion about looking too much like a police vehicle, but that push bar at the request of the supervisor said that would be a great addition to help get a bus out of an intersection in a sticky spot.
I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, seeing no other questions, would someone like to make a motion?
I can
Please.
I move that the board authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Northside Ford Truck Sales, Inc. for the purchase of 4 hybrid supervisor vehicles for an amount not to exceed $161,472. Or $161,472. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Got a second from Director Hinojosa Pressey. Any discussion on the motion?
I just want to say that I kind of wish it was just an Explorer.
Actually, I got one question too.
Sure.
Are these brush guards going to be, or the push bars, outfitted with winches? Is that something that comes with that package? No, it's just the brush guard?
It's just, yes, it's a kind of a push bumper.
Okay, perfect.
Any other, Director Carney?
Thank you, President Davidson. I just again would like to celebrate the work that our operations supervisors do and the assistance that they provide all of our Chariots employees and the ways that they help keep the fleet running and address kind of a wide variety of emergency situations. I always, as a former Chariots employee and now as a community member, I find comfort in seeing their cars rolling by. And so I just want to let them know that we appreciate the work they do.
Director, please.
Yeah, I also wanted to say that I echo all the work that has been put in, especially during this time when it's really difficult to be able to procure some vehicles. And also just all the foresight that goes into the needs and the safety of staff. It's just astronomical to me, like even the smallest details that are considered.
If there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Next item of General Manager Pollock.
With Greg's permission, I will take this staff report. Looks like his screen has frozen.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Great. So the item before you tonight is asking the board to authorize me in the role of general manager to execute a contract with TransPro Consulting for strategic planning consulting services. In 2012, the district established a strategic plan. We did that internally, a staff and board-led process. And then in 2018, we adopted an update to that plan. And since then, as you're all aware, the board has transitioned from a directly elected to now a full governor-appointed board. And it's appropriate to have the new board and help set a revised direction, since we haven't really taken the time in a decade other than kind of doing some updates. So we have moved along this strategic planning process for the organization. On October 15th, we issued an RFP for strategic planning consulting services. We received 3 qualified proposals. The Source Evaluation Committee evaluated the proposals on the criteria you can see listed in the staff report, qualifications and experience of the firm and the staff, project management plan and technical approach, experience with transportation agencies and elected officials, references, and their price proposal and the cost of the service. Key elements of the plan development that we asked for included leadership team workshops, board and stakeholder engagements, alignment on success outcomes with the plan, development of performance scorecards for all the goals and objectives, and GM performance review process that aligns with the strategic plan, which is different than the process we have now. So it really makes sense that the general manager can be evaluated based on the organizational direction. So for this board, what that means is a series of one-on-one, we call them virtual meetings with the consultant staff. There'll be board retreats and board workshops along the way during the development of the plan. Based on the evaluation scoring, TransPro Consulting was the highest evaluated proposer. TransPro Consulting has extensive experience developing strategic plans for transit agencies. You can see in here some of the recent work that they have done with transit agencies, Lane Transit District down in Eugene, Capital Metro in Austin, Denver, Toledo, Charlotte, and Kansas City Area Transit Authority. The evaluation committee believes TransPro Consulting's best positioned to guide the district through a successful strategic planning process. They focus on the transit industry. They're specialists in the transit industry. All their key staff are former transit professionals and organizations. And they really develop organizational strategies that really empower individuals through the strategies and tactics. And that's probably one of the biggest shortcomings of our current strategic plan. We've got some big picture goals, but we haven't drilled down to accomplish things. And so part of the ask in this proposal is to do that. I will say, so the CEO of TransPro Consulting is Mark Ash, the former general manager and CEO for the Rochester, New York Transit System. He eventually wrote a book on his experiences when he left there and developed TransPro Consulting, and for the last decade have been helping transit agencies throughout the country really set their strategic direction in the right direction. So I'm confident they will do an outstanding job for us. We have budgeted funds in this year's budget for that process, and the evaluation committee recommends that the board authorize the general manager to execute a contract with TransPro Consulting for strategic planning consulting services for a not-to-exceed amount of $168,932.
Thank you. Are there any questions for General Manager Pollock? Director Nguyen.
Thank you, President Davidson. General Manager Pollock, what time span does this contract cover? And I'm curious, how will the scope of work interface with the DEI consultant scope of work?
Sure. So Director Nguyen, so the target deadline is 6 months. The goal was to have it done by the end of June. That's based on a January 1 start. So somewhere, I would imagine, in the June or early July timeframe, we'll be bringing it to the board for adoption. We will integrate any findings we get with the DEI strategic plan. We haven't really sat down with TransPro yet to talk about all this, but when they start their work, they will be briefed and integrated into what we are accomplishing there. I do expect as we, as a board and leadership team, work through, for instance, guiding principles of the organization, that we will have lengthy discussions on DEI and other aspects of the organization, because this is really that time to refresh as an organization, as well as really create the goals and objectives of if we're still going to be that mobility integrator that we've been talking about. We've been talking about it, now it's time to put it into action. And so that will all be integrated as it massages along.
Thank you, General Manager Pollock.
Other questions? Director Carney.
Not really a question. I just wanted, I did have a question, but Director Wynn already addressed it. And I just want to say I appreciate the attention being given to those aspects. I think the DEI integration is really important, excuse me, to this work.
If I could add to, it's now come to my mind, so we'll also be integrating elements of the long-range transit plan into this too, because all of these are moving documents that will work together and really to set organizationally, service, plans, objectives, all as we move into the next several years.
Great. Other questions? Director Decken.
I just really have a comment. So I also appreciate you mentioning the mobility integration. I think that there's been a lot of preconceived notions about what disability needs, and there's a lot of invisible disability out there that not necessarily bus isn't always the best option. There are times, at least for me, that biking is a better option. So I just appreciate that that's something that we're continuing the conversation and moving that forward. So thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other questions, would someone like to make a motion? Director Navarro, would you like to go 3 for 3?
Absolutely. Thank you, President Davidson. I move the board to authorize the general manager to execute a contract with TransPro Consulting for strategic planning consulting services for a not-to-exceed amount of $168,932.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? I will just mention here that while I wasn't at all involved in the procurement process, I'm delighted that TransPro was selected as the entity that will help us through this process. I had a chance while at APTA's conference to hear from agencies that had received the service or benefited from the services of TransPro, and I immediately thought, I hope they win our contract. I hope they applied. And so when I discussed the report of my trip to APTA conference, one of the things I mentioned was the idea of value versus volume. And I was first introduced to that concept in that session. And so I'm excited to see them bring that kind of paradigm shift to us. I think it will be needs to be a priority for the industry as a whole, and I'm excited that Chariots gets to kind of be at the forefront of this, of rethinking not only how we as an entity operate, but also how the community views us and the value that we provide to them as opposed to just pure ridership numbers. So, any other points of discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, we'll go ahead and proceed to the informational reports about January service change.
So I'll ask Jeremy Drostad to come on, there he is, to present the report.
Thank you, President Davidson, members of the board. On January 2nd, 2022, we will be going through a service change. Part of that service change, the local weekday service will have a slight increase. Currently, we're operating at about 80% of our current service level. That will increase by about 10%, and we'll be operating at about 90% of a regular service level. That service increase is mostly due to increasing frequency on our core network routes and starting our 15-minute service a little earlier in the day and ending it later in the evening. Also, our Route 1X trips will be restored to 100% of pandemic level. Our Saturday and Sunday service will continue at 100% of pre-pandemic service level. We will have 2 holidays for this service change. Martin Luther King Day on Monday, January 17th, and President's Day on Monday, February 21st. And our Lyft service will match our local fixed route hours of operation for all days of service. And that's the service change update.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Planner Jorstad? Director Nguyen.
Just competing with Director Carney tonight.
I couldn't tell who was first. It was just, yeah. Sorry.
She challenged us earlier, so I had to. Planner Jorstad and actually General Manager and the staff as a whole. Serendipitously, I had a meeting earlier this morning with one of the public university higher ups north of us. And while other transit districts are actually lowering service, I am so heartened to hear that we are stepping up service, because in this very tight job market, public transit is serving those frontline staff and those service folks that are working the frontline jobs that are so critically needed. So I just want to take a moment and just applaud all of your work to get this us closer to the reemergence of what we have always been delivering before COVID came. So thank you.
Thank you.
Director Carney.
Thank you, President Davidson. My question, and I echo Director Nguyen's sentiments about the service provided and who and how it's serving our community. It really is fantastic news that we're able to accomplish this in the circumstances we're in. My question is about operators. So when we put more buses on the road and we run them more frequently, it takes more people to drive them. How does this impact our operators? What is the kind of increase in that space? If you could help me understand the relationship.
Sure. So currently with the 80%, we have plenty of operators to ensure that reliability. With the 90%, we will as well. So part of my job is to create that work for the operators, and by doing a run cut, so it breaks down all of the work that they do. So with this run cut for this service change, there are a few more runs that the operators can bid on. Currently, there are many, we have what's called an extra board, where extra drivers go if people get sick. If we need a person in a seat, a person comes from the extra board to fill that position. And so currently with the 80%, we have enough people on the extra board to bump up to 10% to 90%.
Director
Great,
Duncan.
that's helpful. Thank you.
I understand that we're having a change of CDL requirements. Is that going to affect us, and is that a concern for any of the drivers? Or
I would kick that question to Mr. Dietz if he's willing to answer it. I can't answer that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeremy. Director Duncan, yes, we're aware of that new rule change, and we are already poised to handle that situation. Our training supervisor has everything in line, all ready to go. There's a couple of things that he's wrapping up, but we will be ready to go by the deadline. Our training program will not miss a beat when it comes to that. Thank you.
that's great to hear. Thank you so much.
In a somewhat similar vein, I'm curious if maybe General Manager Pollock or Director Dietz could speak to the very broad generalities of hiring. I assume that it certainly seems that we are at a better staffing level than we had been previously, but what's our future outlook maybe look like? Tom? Or?
Sure, I can take the first stab at it. And thank you for that, President Davidson. So right now we are extremely fortunate, blessed, I might say, that we are not in the hiring desert that our neighbors to the north, south, and east are experiencing. I don't want to say that too loudly because that could backfire at any moment. But right now we have a class already slated to start on the 3rd of January. And then working with our new Chief Human Resources Officer, the transportation manager, and Christina Connor are already looking at more creative ways to tap into more labor pools. We have not been put in a situation where we have to talk about hiring bonuses or sign and stay bonuses just yet. So we are going to continue to be thinking on top of the box so that we can see everything around us and make sure that we're tapping every pool possible.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? All right, well, Director Dietz, Planner Jorstad, thank you very much for fielding our questions. And thank you for putting in all the work and allowing us to then in January put even more buses on the road. Thank you. With that, that concludes our informational reports section, so we'll proceed to the General Manager's report.
Great, thank you. I do have a few items to report. First is, you're all aware, we have a long-range transit plan process going on, and in the next couple of days, the consultant team and our staff will announce the online open house process. And there'll also be a survey instrument. It may happen tomorrow, but I don't want to commit anything, and I don't want to over-announce it. People think it's open, but by, if not tomorrow, early next week, that online open house process will be happening. I've also been asked to maybe give a little update on what's happening on redistricting as it relates to chariots. So we are a little bit different than cities and counties because we do not have elected board members. So I guess there's a little less pressure to get things done in time for elections. But I can tell you, we have been engaging with the Secretary of State's office. Currently, there is a proposed rulemaking out on transit district redistricting. And really, that's all about us, Lane Transit District and TriMet. The public hearing for that is scheduled for January 10th. And then post-public hearing, we expect final rules to be promulgated. I am not anticipating any significant changes from the proposed rules. There are some clarifications we're going to talk with the Secretary of State's office about. But generally, the process will go like this. And we have already engaged the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments to prepare our maps. They have prepared, what they have done already is overlaid the new populations within the subdistricts, and they're waiting for our direction, really in the Secretary of State's office direction, to then move forward. They will prepare 2 sets of maps. We'll have public open houses, both virtually, and we'll see what happens is maybe in person. We are scheduled for, I believe, March to have a work session for the board to review the maps and the public comments, with the plan to take action in April. Unless it changes, the current deadline, I believe, is May 16th for us to submit our maps. The difference, as we see it right now, they've asked for us to submit an outreach plan and some other stuff, and we're trying to interpret what should happen. It was always our intention to do an outreach plan. There may be some technical fixes to the rules to clean that up, and then they're to have final approved maps back to us by June 30th. So we're a little behind the curve because there was a lot of pressure to get the redistricting done to prepare for upcoming elections. And so that's where we're at. But we'll start that process as soon as the formal rules. Plan for a work session to see the maps and review public comment in March, and you'll take action in April. I do have a few other things. Yeah. So just, Jeremy talked about service. January 2nd going forward, but between then and now, there are another 2 holidays. Those are 2 of the 3 holidays we no longer, we don't provide service for. So Christmas Day and New Year's Day, there will be no service, but there will be around all of that. Tomorrow, we'll be providing a kind of a holiday season thank you lunch for all the staff as a way to say thank you for the great work they've done this past year and to kind of kick off the holiday celebration. And with that, I'd also wish all of you a happy holidays and get ready for a busy 2022 because we have a DEI strategic plan, a long-range transit plan, and an organizational strategic plan for you all to work on. So let's get ready. Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, General Manager. With that, we'll go ahead and proceed to the board member committee reports, and I'll go ahead, as usual, start with Director Nguyen.
Great, thank you, President Davidson. First and foremost, I don't know if your household is like mine. We're a multi-generational household, and so the elders got sick, then the littles got sick, and it's always the mom that's the last to get sick, and that was me last month. So thank you to my colleagues for helping cover for me while I was out. And then secondly, I want to publicly apologize. There was an IT issue that I was not made aware of where my account got unsynced somehow, the calendar and the inbox. And so there were some constituency emails that were delayed as completely me was the bottleneck. So please absolve General Manager Pollock from the delay that was caused by me as well as my colleagues. If you have sent me an email and I have not responded, I have since, thanks to the wonderful IT team at Chariots and Ms. Galeazzi, I am back online and will be clearing through the email inbox. Switching over to DEI, I'll do a quick DEI committee report and then yield the rest of my time if President Davidson needs to do any other APTA DEI updates. But since last month's report, Keen Consulting met with staff to develop and finalize virtual workshops, surveys. This week, Chariot sent out virtual workshops to elected officials, community stakeholders, and influencers, all district employees, and bus riders. This project will evaluate equity at Chariots using program analysis, quantitative metrics, community input, and more to develop a roadmap for long-term DEI progress within the organization and the Salem-Keizer region. The DEI subcommittee will meet to review the preliminary results on Tuesday, January 18th, and the full board will be presented the final results at the board work session on January 27th. And last but not least, before I yield the rest of my time, I missed the Salem Chambers luncheon, also due to that same technical access issue. So apologies if that somehow left us without representation at that table. So to my colleagues, I apologize. And that concludes my report. President Davidson, did you have any further?
I think I'll probably present more on the racial equity opportunity with APTA at the DEI subcommittee. And then if the DEI subcommittee is supportive, we can maybe bring it to the full board, if that's all right with you.
Perfect, thank you.
Great, thanks. Next is Director Navarro.
Awesome. Thank you, President Davidson. This month I had the privilege of sitting in for Director Enojo's Presley at the Citizens Advisory Committee meeting. Got to hear a little bit on the background of some of our volunteers on that committee, and it's an amazing group of individuals. One thing that I really appreciated hearing was a story from one of the volunteers there who is advocated for disability parking over at the community-based outpatient clinic for the VA center off of McGilchrist. So I thought that was pretty awesome to know that that guy was the driving force behind that. So what we got to hear from at the meeting was Jacobs Engineering leading us in a discussion on their long-range transit plan. They had an awesome list of how they're going to be doing their outreach in the next month and the next phase of their plan. And one thing that I thought was really interesting was they wanted to hear from different organizations that are entertainment organizations. So we got to give a shout out to, or incorporate the Volcano Stadium in that to make sure that they're reaching out to them, the indoor soccer over on Portland Road to make sure they're including them, and a whole bunch of other organizations were mentioned as well. And I thought that that was really awesome that they were interested in hearing from those organizations and how we can increase transportation to be able to support individuals utilizing those services. And then in Kaiser, I mean, Kaiser's really feeling the Christmas bug. We had the Lights Parade, and Chariots had an amazing bus that was in there. I took some pictures with the group, the Latino Club from McNary High School, who wanted to show their appreciation for Chariots and providing their transportation to their after-school program. So they utilized Chariots to be able to get to and from their programs, and so they really appreciated that. And so I have a picture that I posted online for that. But yeah, it was really awesome, and we had an amazing event. At that event, they were hosting a fundraiser, and they did really well. Chariots got an award for, it was for their holiday lights display.
Best use of lights.
Best use of lights, that's what it was, thank you. And that was awesome. It was really appreciated to see all the work that the employees here at Chariots did to go all out at this parade. And with that concludes my report.
Thank you, Director Navarro. Before we move on to Director Carney, I did receive a constituent question that I'd like to maybe pose here in the public meeting. Can we have the holiday lights bus just run all of December? I imagine there's some very reasonable operational challenges to it, but I wanted to pose the question.
Yeah, that question gets asked every year, and yeah, it's impossible to run that bus in service.
Okay.
Yeah. Years ago, there used to be a different version, a holiday decorated bus, but this bus with all that lights, it just would be unsafe.
Got it. Yeah. Safety first. Holiday cheer second. Director Carney.
Thank you, President Davidson. Such a good question, though, and I think one on many community members' minds. I attended our SCATS policy meeting. The schedules are a little off due to the holiday months, both for our board meetings and for SCATS. So our last meeting was on November 23rd, and our coming meeting is this coming week on the 21st. And we did have a public commenter, which is, as you probably know, like this meeting, rare at times. It seems more rare. It certainly seemed rare in this case. But a gentleman from the West Salem Neighborhood Association provided comment to the group about increasing public access to the people who serve on SCATS and to staff members, potentially adjusting hours of availability, making, having someone available after work hours, and just finding different ways to engage the public. And this sort of ties into a later conversation that we had with the policy committee, because one of the things that his comment drove in our conversation was the idea that we could have a public advisory committee or a citizen advisory committee. And indeed, our next agenda item, which was on the SCATS public participation plan, in the language for the public participation plan, it specifically says you can have a citizen advisory committee. And there was discussion among the group about how that might be appropriate given the confluence of all these different plans that we are updating at this time. So that is now I'm gonna have to go way down into the notes here to the transportation improvement plan and the regional transportation system plan. So with both of those products being developed simultaneously, there is the possibility of appointing kind of a short-term committee. And I think that that would be something that I think would add value to the process. But we'll see how that goes. I was a champion for it at the meeting. The majority of the meeting, which ran well over time, was spent discussing the funds that will be available through the Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act. There's an unpronounceable acronym that accompanies that if anyone's interested. I think it's IIJA. At any rate, robust conversation about the amounts of money and how the funding could be used and where and how the SCATS Policy Committee would suggest directing it. Prior to the SCATS meeting, Director Inojos Pressy and Director Duncan and I met with Director Dickey to talk about the items on the agenda. And I want to say thank you for that preparatory meeting because it really got my head in the right space for this conversation. And I think, you know, the point that I tried to express to the policy committee and to staff was that really targeting the investment of these funds to places where it could add capacity and create greater benefit by aligning with our core network should be the top priority for investment of these funds as we move forward, because there's so many goals that we are trying to reach concurrently that would benefit from the alignment of those efforts. And I did receive a nice comment via email from Kathy Lincoln, a former transit director on this board, who happens to live in my sub-district, saying thank you for making those comments. And she copied Chair Clark, who is the mayor of Kaiser, but also the chair of the policy committee on that. So hopefully we can see some alignment of that investment as we move forward. So looking forward to our next meeting next week. And I wish you all very happy holidays. I hope that your lights are bright and your nights are as short as they can be this time of year. So happy holidays to you all. It is a gift to serve by your side.
Thank you, Director Carney. Director Inojos Pressy.
Well, that's a tough act to follow, mostly because I did not have the capacity to attend some of my meetings. Thank you, Director Navarro, for attending that Citizens Advisory Committee for me. I am sad that I missed out on such a lively conversation, but I do hope that you get the opportunity to join us maybe some other times in the future. The only thing I think I want to say is just with everything that's been going on in our community and also with the recent passing of Bell Hooks, I just want to say a quote from them, and is, "I want there to be a place in the world where people can engage in one another's differences in a way that is redemptive, full of hope and possibility." And that's what I will leave you all with. Thank you.
President Davidson, if you're speaking, I don't think we can hear you on this side.
Thank you for that. Can you hear me now? Okay. Well, your mic's muted. I've heard that a few times. Okay. So my first report is the Mid-Willamette Valley Area Commission on Transportation. And we, like SCATS, also talked about the IIJA funds. And a couple of top line figures I wanted to highlight is that for Oregon, we're looking at approximately $1.2 billion. Of that, $1 billion will go to highways and $200 million for transit. So just wanted to note the on its face disparity there. However, wanted to also note that 350 to 400 million of that highway funding is flexible. As I have learned recently, flexibility is something that requires practice. And so I think there's an opportunity for us as a board of directors to lobby for increased flexibility in the use of those funds. I think particularly as we talk about highway funds, it's important to recognize that we need to ensure that we can maintain the existing infrastructure. It doesn't do us much good if our infrastructure crumbles while we build new infrastructure. So that I would just note that. Another thing that we did talk about, one other thing on the infrastructure funding is that we specifically talked about writing letters to the Oregon Transportation Commission, and independent bodies like our body, I think, are encouraged to submit those letters. So as decisions start getting made at that level, I think it's incumbent on us to make our voice heard at that body. We also received a briefing on a new design standards called the Blueprint for Urban Design. It was presented by staff from ODOT. The very high level of it is that it is a design standard that allows, I'm going to say this again, flexibility on how you design roads for both safety and travel. And so the use cases that they identified, they used an example in McMinnville in particular. It seems like it's a tool that could be used well, and so I'd like to see it used well. Though, once again, I am not as flexible as I was 15 years ago, and so it requires some concerted efforts in flexibility. And then we also talked about the role of ACTS, so the Advisory Commissions on Transportation. It's a recurring discussion point for us as well as at the Oregon Transportation Commission. The role of the ACTS, very briefly, they've kind of lost their purpose because the OTC and the legislature have taken away the funding decision-making powers that the ACTS used to possess. And so we are an advisory body, and there's a general consensus that we advise individuals and bodies that do not listen. And so that is something that we would like to see changed. The OTC has some thoughts on how to change that. There's disagreement about if it's substantive change. Anyways, there's a whole lot of nuance that I could talk to you about. But that summarizes MWAC for this month. I also want to highlight that Director Duncan and I, and as well as General Manager Pollack, yesterday we attended SEDCOR's annual awards lunch. It was a lunch, not a dinner. And a lot of for-profit businesses were celebrated for various things, but I wanted to highlight that the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments was recognized as the business partner of the year for their efforts up in the Santiam Canyon. They, in partnership with Marion County, have really been instrumental in helping the Santiam Canyon area rebuild, and I'll use that as a dovetail to my service on the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments Board of Directors, along with Director Enojo Espresi. We had a meeting on, I believe, Tuesday, and we adopted a fund balance target for fiscal year 2023. We made a budget. We tweaked our existing adopted budget, and then we adopted a 2022 legislative policy. For the past year or so, I've been serving on the COGS legislative subcommittee, and we've been meeting most Wednesdays at 7 a.m. I'm not too happy about it, but it happens. And the most substantive changes that have been made to the document so far have surrounded transportation. One of the things that is perhaps most relevant to this body is considering the prioritization of transportation projects with equal weighting to economic development, safety, as well as climate concerns. And so I think those three legs of this proverbial stool, if they are the same height, I think we will have a better ride or a better seat for us. We also elected officers for 2022, and so Chair Sal Peralta, he's a city councilor from the city of McMinnville. He was again elected chair. Lisa Lano from the Confederate Tribes of Grand Ronde was reelected as vice chair, and then Jackie Frankie from Chemeketa, she is our immediate past chair, so she retains that appointment. And the newly elected fourth officer was me, and I'm replacing Woodburn Mayor Eric Swenson. And then wanted to highlight one, maybe two other things. The first is Arches recently opened what they call Arches Inn on Hawthorne. I was able to attend the ribbon cutting ceremony. It's a wonderful utilization of a hotel. They've converted into 80 plus what are functioning right now. They're being utilized for short term or shorter term temporary housing for victims of the wildfires, but longer term it can hopefully help the region, along with many other efforts to reduce the number of individuals that do not have homes. And so it was great to see a public-private partnership fund that kind of project. And so wanted to highlight that and say kudos to those that helped bring that about. And then lastly, I think it was last night, it might have been the night before, the city of Salem, they had an open house for what they're calling the Union Street Northeast Family Friendly Bikeway Project. Long story short, from the Union Street Bridge, the pedestrian cycling bridge, there is a painted bike lane that extends another 2 blocks until Commercial Street, and then there's nothing in terms of bicycle facilities. And so they have plans and mock-ups to put in what I would call buffered bike lanes for the next 6 blocks. So from Commercial to Capitol, it's buffered, not protected, because it uses bicycle parking as the buffer. I have some concerns with that. I could talk to you all about it, but I think the city's efforts around making sure that bicyclists and pedestrians, particularly in the downtown core, can travel safely is really important. I think that Union Street, that series of 6 blocks, is particularly important because it's a really important east-west connection. And the downtown core in particular, I think, will be among the hardest to make sure that folks can travel safely. So with that, that concludes my reports, though I will note that we are standing up our legislative subcommittee, and so I will be making appointments shortly, and then also we will be putting together a climate action plan subcommittee to help as we develop a climate action plan. So if you have interest in serving on those committees, you can shoot me an email, give me a call, and we can talk about that and see if we might be able to serve together in those capacities. So, but those I'll be sure to notify everyone once those appointments are made. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Director Duncan.
Thank you very much. So kind of most of what I've done has already been talked about. So the SEDCOR luncheon was lovely. Congratulations to all of the winners. It was great to see the Mid-Willamette, the efforts in the Santiam Canyon recognized, because that was so incredibly important in our community. And also, it was just also nice to see some Salem businesses in there. So that's always a nice thing to see. Scats, thank you very much, Director Carney, for all of your assistance there. It was quite a meeting. I was not able to stay for the entirety of the extended meeting, and I'm very glad that you were there. So thank you very much. Let's see. So Reed Road is still having a lot of construction done on it. So if you're in my area, you may notice that. Please remember, do not use it. I don't know if you've noticed, but I sure have, that there is no parking in downtown. It's a great time to practice taking the bus, especially given the icy roads. So if it's something that you've been unsure about, take a nice Saturday, get that rest of your, shopping done. Highly recommend that. And just reminding everyone to be safe and not drive on New Year's Eve. I just wanted to put that out there, since I won't see any of you guys probably. And then the last 2 little pieces, if you have not, please share with the community that we are naming the mascot for Chariots, the little orange puppet. It is very important that everybody get in their submissions for the name. And so just putting that out there. Yes, yes, President?
He is not a mascot. He is a member of Team Chariots.
Our puppetized member
Or they
of
are,
Tier.
thank you. They are a member of Team Chariots.
Shall we call him the puppetized Team Chariots member?
Perhaps.
Okay.
I'm afraid that might also be inappropriate. I don't
Until
know.
we have a name, the
Yes.
fuzzy orange character
Yep,
that is representing Chariots
yep.
needs
I think
a
they
name.
prefer creature.
Creature.
Yeah.
The creature needs a name. We need
Yes.
we need to name our creature. That's the long story short. Please submit a name for the creature. Thank you. All right. And then the last piece I wanted to put out there is I know that this is. I have narcolepsy, and this part of the year is really rough. So I just want to put out there to everyone that has a chronic illness, and the cold, and the rain, and the short days are making you feel like you are just battling uphill. I see you. You're doing great, and I just wanted to put that out there for everyone that needs to hear that right now.
Thank you, Director Duncan. Director Richards.
Yes, this is a anniversary for me. It's 64 days since I had cancer surgery, and I'm now beginning to feel like a human being again. And I apologize for not getting more work done, but it's not something I would like to repeat, but it was quite an experience. So, but I am really glad to be back tonight and to hear all the things that have been said. So I hope you all have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you, Director Richards. Glad to hear that you're feeling better. With that, that concludes our agenda, and so I will just close by saying I hope everyone has a happy and safe holidays. Thank you. We're adjourned.